Crusher. I like this paint job as he checks out the competition. Look at those eyes.
Gary, you know, no matter what form of motorsports in, there's such intensity at this point in time. Starting the engines, whether you're coming off the number 4 corner at Raceway Park or you're rolling into the lanes in Memphis, everybody's pumped. Tim Hall will be going in the other lane against the Chevrolet.
This is the big boss against the Carolina Crusher.
Well, whole shot by the Carolina Crusher. Porter drilled extreme.
Look at that suspension work. He was
he's in
almost
trouble, Gary. He's going over.
He's going over, yes!
For an example, remember the name Ever Jasmer, USA 1 monster truck? Dominated the sport a few years ago. Kind of took a leave. Well, they're off a leave. They're back in action. And when I say there, I'm talking about the Hall brothers who have teamed up with Ever Jasmer to bring the USA 1 out of retirement, and the Chevrolet people are ecstatic. Speaking of Chevrolet people, the Carolina Crusher.
It needs to be finished.
Also at the top of the show, we told you about the return of USA 1, and in round 1, the matchup against Snakebite, well, it appears that if Mark Hall may need a bit more seat time as he gets drilled at the line by Colt Cobra.
Cobra running that new TCI torque converter in the far lane, able to really get the RPMs up on that supercharged Ford engine. Like you say, he left him at the line. Mark Hall, he'll be a player before this year's over, I'll guarantee you, though, with that USA red, white, and blue truck.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of time, a lot of seat time in all forms of motorsports.
Like any kind of racing.
He served notice that he's going to be really a player today at a 4.433. He goes up against USA 1.
Again, the monster truck guys are coming out wheels up. The guys that run the TCI type transmission, that's a manufacturer's name, are literally doing wheelies with these 10,000-pound trucks. That is awesome.
Well, the biggest cash last time we saw Mark Hall, he was in USA 1. Now he's campaigning a truck called the Executioner. And here in round 1, he takes on Kirk Dabney. Pushes Dabney right to the limit.
Dabney's experience showed on a starting line, but Hall on the other end of the track became a real big player here as he literally pushed Dabney agree for Dabney to go into that next round. Hall will be around before this year's over, Gary Lee.
Mark Hall, and it appears as if the same thing happens again. Then watch Mark Hall in that slick shutdown area. All kinds of action here. There goes the suspension, and there goes Mark out through some very wet grass.
See, Gary, that's exactly what we were talking about, and as you well know, boy, you're not going to find anything in the world slicker than wet grass. Meanwhile, major suspension problems to that vehicle.
Yeah, it's been an expensive weekend for Alan Pizzo and the Predator. Second time, first time in qualifying, now in the round 1 competition, with some severe damage to the rear suspension. And after this run, Army talked to Alan Pizzo. Well, as that big Ford is towed back to the paddock area, we take a look at the Executioner. This is Mark Hall. He is at the starting line, and he pulls alongside Gene Patterson in Bigfoot.
You know, Mark and his brother Tim could be one of the best-kept secrets in the sport. They're coming around. They're paying their dues right now, and they are getting closer and closer each week. Gene Patterson steps up into an already proven truck, so Hall has got nothing to lose. You just lay everything on the line right here. No, not going to happen again.
He didn't lay anything on the line because the truck wasn't there for him.
Something went away big time there.
So an easy pass for Gene Patterson as he will advance, but obviously something mechanically wrong with the Executioner. And
boy, that's
a look
a
at
tough
Mark Hall.
and believe me, Gary Lee, before this year's over, the Hall boys are going to be playing hardball with these guys.
Well, the Executioner just got shot in the foot there at the starting line, so he'll go back to the trailer, and Bigfoot will advance.
Yeah, but he'll get the last swing of the axe before this year's over.
Well, let's go back to the track and talk to Gene Patterson.
Seem to tell the story on that run, Gary.
Well, also in round 1 competition, Mark Hall, who last season campaigned the USA 1 truck of Ever Jasmer for a race or two, drew Fred Schaefer, but the Executioner was no match for Barefoot. Now remember how Mark Hall hits the second set of cars. That, of course, was instrumental. Once again, we want to show you a new camera angle we've come up with. Now, talk about hazard pay. Watch this angle of Mark Hall coming right at you.
Yeah, we call it the crush cam.
And it would be expensive.
See why? Both drivers taking a whole lot of abuse.
Also in round 1, here's an ISO look at Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol. He bottoms out in the near lane. It appears as if both lanes will give our drivers fits here this afternoon.
Well, I know that one lane definitely gave Paul Schaefer and his crew a fit, because right now they're back in the...
Here's Fred going on one of his patented burnouts. And Round one, Fred would draw the Executioner Chevrolet of Mark Hall. Fred goes on to round two. Hall goes on the trailer. What great shots from inside the cab of the big Dodge barefoot. Go back to round one now as he took out Mark Hall in the Executioner.
Look what lane he's in.
Now he's in that far lane.
Andy's building a nest over there, and I don't blame him a bit.
And look at the suspension travel on that wild foot Ford. What a work of art.
Be the kiss of death if you're not on your toes. The left lane at Canfield historically has provided some of the wildest action we've ever seen in monster truck racing. We have literally seen them flip, flop, and fly out of that left lane. Now, the right lane is unique in itself because there's a little bit of a hill off the right side of the right lane. That would seem to intimidate a lot of the monster truck drivers, but until today, it did not intimidate the drivers. However, after the first round session, the Hall brothers have proven that right lane can rear up and bite you big time. So right now, the question is not left or right lane, but which is the best lane? Gary?
Well, Army, here's what you're talking about. Now, this is Mark Hall in the Executioner. This is in qualifying. He is in the right lane. Watch what happened.
About 3 foot off the edge of the track. There's a little downgrade. Right there, you see the right rear tire catch it. Hooks a rut. There's our flip-flopping and flying
like a sprint
already.
car catching the cushion and going on over.
Big
Take
time.
a look again. Now, watch at the end of the run. Watch his right rear.
It rolls over. See, and you're only running about 4 pounds of air in these tires, and when you get it over just right there, the tire will collapse, and you go on your lid.
A lot of body damage, but Mark was uninjured. Would be
Also-
short and not so sweet. There's a look at Mark Hall, who would get the Executioner ready for round one, where he would meet up with Don Van Loo. Now,
So, Hall and Van Loo will be the battle of the walking wounded in that first round.
well, Hall got the truck back together, but was not much of a factor here.
Van Loo takes the Chrysler Hemi engine, rolls over to the next round, but Hall did get that next run under his belt, and after flipping, Gary, you know that's important to get the confidence back in your truck.
Wins that one in the Dodge Express.
Then another Dodge rolls out. It's Fred Schaefer, and he goes up against the Chevrolet of the Hall brothers, and out of that left lane, the Dodges all of a sudden start showing they're here for real.
That was Mark Hall in the black and white Chevrolet.
Rainey, as you can see, Andy won a 551, a 578, loses that round.
Fred Schaefer and Mark Hall squared off against one another in round one, and it was barefoot advancing. Fred Schaefer, the old-time drag racer.
Something we're starting to notice, a lot of the wins are coming out of the same lane. The drivers are starting to watch each other. The track is developing a personality. Schaefer thought they may want to go the right lane. They're starting to work their way to the left lane, Gary.
Also some highlights from round one. That is Don Van Loo and Magnum Force, the near lane against Mark Hall, the Executioner. When Hall gets out of shape, he will be disqualified.
And very wisely just drives it on through. Van Loo rolls over into the next round of competition. He netted a 6:30 time. The times are not that bad considering what they're having to race in.
Duffy's time of 5:58.
You better believe these Dodge trucks are here to play hardball.
Here's Mark Hall, the Executioner, in the far lane. John Moore, the no-problem Ford, in the near lane.
That's a great view from our crush cam, Gary.
Yeah, time to duck and cover when Mark goes over, and there's his good time of 6:13. So, a great crowd on hand in the sunshine. And round one, she comes out of Hagerstown, Maryland, a fairly famous racing town for sprint cars. And there's a look at Mark Hall. He's out of Champaign, Illinois, and he drives the Executioner. This should be a good shootout.
It definitely, not only girls against the guys, you got the old classic Chevrolet against Ford.
And two disciplines, the van style and the pickup style.
Exactly, but the bottom line here is the first one that goes the other end is going to be in style, because they'll come back. Who's it going to be? It looks like Pam. Yeah,
Pam has him. Pam has him. Oh, this crowd is going wild here in Naples. 6 seconds flat for Pam Botters in the boogie van. Oh, you know she's happy. The crowd is happy.
Well, Hall goes to 6:26, and believe me, this young lady has hit on the right combination. She gives a lot of credit to her crew, but I tell you what, she can drive that monster truck.
Take one more look now at the victory. Pam Botters in the boogie van. You know she's happy, and right now she's down trackside with Army. Good time for brass at 5:20. And now we look at Rick Rattler, the right side. Mark Hall in the left lane.
Ford on the right, Chevy on the left. Let the race speak for itself. Hear them winging that throttle when they're flying through the air, that wah, 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 wah. They're really working that throttle.
There's a look at Rick Rattler's 5:43.83, which would give him a bye run in that 11-truck format. In round one competition, Mark Hall taking on Fred Schaefer in the near lane. Now watch Fred get crooked coming off that second set of cars, but hangs on to get her well.
Was a 5:23. He'll be a player. Another Chevrolet, the Hall brothers, team up against one of the strongest Dodges in the country. So, like I say, we've got good representation this year by all the manufacturers.
Well, Fred Schaefer took that one, and his time was 5.55. Now, an interesting matchup between Gene Patterson.
That's the guy that's holding a hot hand in this sport. Speaking of hot hands, look at the pairing in the next round. The Hall brothers come out to go against none other than
Andy Brass, Bigfoot Cruiser. Once again, this is action from round one. It was all Andy Brass. There was a problem with Mark Hall. He did not finish, and there's the 5:21. Andy's not qualifying that well, but he's Van Loo. That makes 3 wins for Chevrolet in round one. Now, the best time of round one and qualifying would be turned in by Dan Runte in the near lane with the Power Wheels Bigfoot. Always tough to beat. So some highlights from round one competition.
He was on the throttle.
There's a look at Kirk Dabney out of Columbia City, Indiana. He drives a truck called Overkill. He defeated Mark Hall in the Hall brothers entry. Coming right at you. I like this shot, Army. Over our crash cam.
Groundhog cam.
Groundhog
Pennsylvania.
cam.
That's right. Groundhog.
15. So this, once again, a highlight from round one competition. Also in round one was Colt Cobra taking on Mark Hall in the Executioner. And watch this wild finish by Hall.
Mark Hall is one of the guys that's trying to get a luck streak going for him, and it was not to be at this event. He was all over the shutdown area. So the first round competition, Paul Schaefer comes out with the wing, and it seemed to work for him as he goes up against one of the hot coming teams, the Hall brother racing team. But Mark Hall, no match for the wing this time, Gary. Nobody is doing things like the other guy.
Mark Hall in the Executioner has not made it into round two very often this year, but in a mild upset, he would advance with Ray Porkowski going out of bounds.
I'll tell you what, Mark Hall and his brother are good monster truck people. They just need one thing. All racers need it at one time or another. They just need to get a good break.
Here's a gal that needs a good break. We talked about the privateers.
Now, Schaefer has knocked one Bigfoot out tonight, but he's still got this guy in front of him tonight and in a points chase. But what you're looking at right now is one of the guys I'm glad to see in this round of competition, finally given a chance to get some national exposure to the Hall brother racing team. The national exposure goes to their sponsors.
Well, Mark Hall, of course, will be in the Executioner as we take a look at Dan Runte out of St. Louis, Missouri in the Power Wheels Bigfoot. He is second right now in the point standings. Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois in the Executioner. And perhaps you noticed earlier the Spies Hecker on the front fender. That is a German auto finish. It's a German paint product that we're seeing show up more and more as a sponsor in American motorsports.
Yeah, we're glad to see them working with the Hall brothers and helping them out. But right now, believe me, this Chevrolet team out of Champaign, Illinois, has got their hands full of that big blue oval bunch Ford over there. They leave the line together. Bigfoot's out on him. Bigfoot
there
all
was
the way.
never a doubt, never in question there. Dan Runte, there's Executioner's 5.54, but Runte ran a 5.11.
Boy, 5.11 is a number, believe me.
Yeah, he does so.
He comes as close to high side without going over as anybody.
In other highlights from round one, Mark Hall, the Executioner, Fred Schaefer in barefoot. Hall has a mechanical problem. The barefoot truck goes on to record a 5.18 ET.
We told you earlier the barefoot boys are on, but Runte and the Bigfoot boys, they went a tenth quicker. Everybody catches them, then they jump out. For an example, Mark Hall goes up against Colt Cobra. Hall in a Chevrolet, Cobra in a Ford. Same scenario. This guy goes a low 5-second run, a 5.11 to be exact. Hall makes a good run. Nothing to be ashamed of. But the Ford.
He went up against Mark Hall in the Executioner, and Meager turned in a stellar 3.82 run, as we'll see right here. This is action from round one. But at the end of the run, he developed drive shaft problems and could not continue. RCA Dome as we are getting ready for round two competition. There is Mark Hall in the Executioner.
Yeah, but Hall will be going up against a guy that's trying to turn last year's luck around, the big Dodge of Fred Schaefer, the Barefoot boys.
Executioner near lane with Hall. Fred Schaefer far lane with Barefoot.
Schaefer leads when the light goes green. Hall does not. But look at the attitude that Schaefer goes over the finish line. It's a nose-down attitude. We're going to be keeping an eye on that attitude later to see if the truck is set up right.
Faster that run than the first round, but Mark Hall has a problem, and he pulls off the racetrack, so he is out of competition.
Schaefer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, has the factory support behind him with Dodge. Meanwhile, exactly the opposite. Tim Hall works hard, builds his truck out of his own pocket. He and his brother race it, but they're two opposite ends of the spectrum right now, but that will all even out when that green light comes on, Gary.
About staged. A terrific run for Fred Schaefer. A bit of bounce there in the shutdown lane for Hall. Look at that. A new world record at 4.71. Beats his old record by 100th of a second.
Watch how the truck settles down in no man's land. See, keep something on the ground so he can keep pushing it to the other end.
Yeah, it's impressive to be in the air, but in the air, you're not hooking up the horsepower. So a good run for Fred Schaefer. As we take a look now, watch the rough landing for Tim Hall on the right lane. Here's Army with Fred.
Fred, real.
Well, Tim Hall and the Executioner also had problems in qualifying, hand grenading an engine. It's been an expensive weekend so far here in Bloomsburg.
You know, people don't realize how hard you have to run these trucks. This is not for grins and giggles. They're chasing this big point money, and they're on kill.
Well, the best matchup. So far, it's been hot. It's been humid here outside the Ozarks, and the competition has been just as hot.
Well, and we've expected that because chasing these PENDA points, when the PENDA Corporation came up and put this money out, everybody knew everybody was going to go headhunting, and that's exactly what we're seeing. And no exception to the headhunters, if you will, be Tim Hall, who's normally the crew chief on his truck, driven by his brother Mark. But Tim decided to get a little bit more hands-on experience. We don't get a chance to see him a lot, but believe me, the Hall Brothers Executioner team are players in this sport. In this round, they're going up against Kirk Dabney out of Fort Wayne, who's trying to overcome some obstacles that he had earlier in the year. So this could be a good old-time slapping contest, if you will, between a Chevrolet and a Ford.
And Dabney by a fender takes the victory in overkill at 5.50. Not particularly fast.
No, but I got to give credit to old Tim Hall. For a crew chief, he did a good job of driving that truck.
Yeah. How many guys would turn their crew chief loose in a racing vehicle?
Not one.
You won't even let me drive your car.
That's right.
There's a look again at the margin of victory as we go down trackside to visit with Kirk Dabney.
And Gary, tell us more about that.
Well, Army, we want to take you back to qualifying now. This is Mark Hall in the Executioner. Earlier today, this was in qualifying. And he almost gets first on his nose, then veers off to the left. So that could have been a very costly ride. Man, they are tearing up some iron here this weekend in Canfield, Army. Eric Meager taking on Mark Hall. Hall, you might recall, also sustained some damage in our last show from Canfield. Eric Meager goes on to lay down the low ET of round one with this pass. There it is at a 5.02 low ET for round one. There's that 5.24 for Gary Porter. And how many times have we seen this? Dan Runte once again laying down the low ET of round one. He knocks out Mark Hall in the Executioner. There's that 4.97. He'll have lane choice for...
5.08 was a good number, but Eric Meager came up and ran against the Hall Brothers team in that round one competition. He went a 5.22. Now remember, quick qualifying is a 4.96. Schaefer went an 0.8 with a 5. This 5.22 is going to get much quicker if he's going to be competitive in the later rounds.
Yeah, Eric will have to step it up just a bit.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Army. Thank you.
Nice to see the big smile on Pam's face. And there is a look at Mark Hall, the Executioner, who comes back by way of being a fast loser from round one. There is Mark from Champaign, Illinois.
We were talking about the privateers. Mark and his brother worked so hard to make this truck run, and they're going to keep hammering and nailing. It's kind of like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Well, they've been taking one bite all year long, but today they got to go up against Gary Porter, They're strong runners, they're hard runners, but they always seem to have a black cloud hanging over them.
Pair of privateers.
As is Porter, you know, credit where credit's due. Good two strong running Chevrolet powered privateers here.
And it is Gary Porter, but not by much.
There's that hook to the right again on the end. Hall ran him hard. There's nothing to hold your head down about there. Those guys are players. Just need
that was a good run. Once again, Mark Hall the far lane, Gary Porter the near lane, and you can see the margin of victory ever so slim, but the win does indeed go to Gary Porter out of North Carolina, and right now Army is standing by trackside with Porter.
The privateers boogie.
Well, here's the round one matchup that Army was alluding to. Mark Hall, the far lane, taking on Paul Schaefer in the near lane.
Now, the Hall brother team have been working, hammer, clawing, doing everything all year long, and it finally came together on that run.
And Mark Hall took the victory. There's the time, and he was with Army.
Mark, the run you've been looking for all year long. Everybody seems to be turning their luck around right now, you guys included.
Yeah, we've been working at it all year. It took a year to get everything coming our way, but I think this weekend we finally got things turned around and starting to happen. We tore up some stuff here, so we got to get busy on this, but I think we can get it fixed and try to get back in there.
Well, the best race of round one, Ken Deppy, takes out Mark Hall in the Executioner. Now, you'll see the margin of victory. Mark Hall will come back as the second fast loser. There's the margin of victory. Ken Deppy at 3.73. Great crowd on hand here. Made him honorary agents. Quite a resume for one Fred Schaefer, monster truck racer, bear trainer, honorary DEA and FBI agent.
And for an hour, we couldn't find Jerry Lee when those FBI agents were on the floor. We finally found him hiding in a closet. I don't understand that.
I don't think so. Fred Schaefer inside the cockpit with Fred, and the barefoot dodge as he finally stages against Mark Hall. And a problem for Schaefer. Mark Hall takes the victory. Fred Schaefer has always had trouble at these events sponsored by Dodge.
Boy, it just seems like there's a black cloud hanging over his head. He moved at the same time Hall did. Something let go on the drivetrain.
Well, there's a look again over the first set of cars, and he parks it right there in no man's land. Mark wins it. Right now, Hall is with Army.
The Executioner, Mark Hall, have been a tough opponent for quite a few years, but it seems like you and your brother, Tim, have started to really pull this thing together. You've always had the driving talent, you've always had the equipment, but it seems like now it's starting to come together for you, Mark.
Well, I hope so. You know, we've been fighting this. We built a new truck, and we come out, and we spent a year kind of working with it and working out the bugs, and it's really starting to come around. We're just having some little bitty problems. It's kind of little bugs catching up and biting us here, but I think we'll get it worked out, and I think it's going to come around.
One thing about the competition tonight, a lot of the big boys are sitting on a trailer, and you're still in this thing. Good luck to you.
Thanks a lot, Army.
One monster drags, and we can tell you while we were away, Mark Hall determined he actually broke something in that win over Fred Schaefer. He will not be able to continue, so Eric Tack in the Dungeon of Doom, the quickest loser from round two, will now race against Kirk Dabney in the final four.
Last pairing in the second round is Chevrolet, the Executioner, the Hall brother racing team. Mark Hall doing the driving out of Champaign, Illinois. The big story is how he got to the second round. He put away another Chevrolet in the first round. Paul Schaefer was that victim.
That's right, the Executioner and the Monster Patrol. Pretty equal coming off the launch, but take a look there on the outside lane. Mark Hall with a 534. He's moving on to round number 2 here, but he's going up against the defending PENDA points champion and Dan Running. He and the Bigfoot crew have been very, very busy this afternoon. No motor problems, just a new starter needed on the Bigfoot Ford. He and his crew, hard at work. They got him ready, and he's back on the line.
Meanwhile, sitting in the other lane, the guy, like a little train, he thinks he can beat the big guys. Far lane, Ford, Power, Big Blue, Bigfoot. Hall waits in the near lane. There's Sage.
Big Blue. Dan Running in the Ford does it again. A 4.80. Very good run for Dan Running.
Dan Running, muscling up, showing that he can
Second to Dan Running. He's going up against the Executioner of Tim Hall.
You know, that's an interesting race here because both young drivers, and Mark Hall and Tim Hall, are the brother team out of Champaign, Illinois. Mark doing the driving is one of the most underrated drivers in the sport. These guys are a victory looking to happen. Will it happen today? I don't know. These Fords seem to be having a hot hand, but this Chevrolet's not rolling over on them at all, Dave.
the Hulkster flexing his muscles once again. The WCW car crosses the finish line first. A 4:84, a good time for Eric Meager and Tim Hall and the Executioner. They're going to have to wait to race another day.
You know, but there's kind of an interesting point here as we got a top-end camera. I want you to watch the front of the truck on your left and to see if indeed his front tires did make contact, both front tires, with that second obstacle. We may have a disqualification. No, I don't think they did.
Well,
the driver's side tires,
so.
yeah, the driver's side tires. Let's see what the officials do about this, but that should be a DQ run.
Well, they're taking a look at the replay as we speak. You can see Eric Meager, a very concerned driver. Tim Hall and a lot of the drivers getting around to take a look at this replay with the officials.
Well, I tell you, the replay won't lie, and the drivers know that if he was wrong, they're going to see it on the replay.
And another look here, you can see the left front tires. They need to both touch the set of cars. They're outside the line. Special events people and track officials taking a look. They've made their decision. Eric Meager has been disqualified. He's standing by with Army. Bigfoot in the semifinal pair. The other bracket, the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer. He'll be going up against Mark Hall's Executioner, the GMC you see right here. Army, he's one of our privateers in the sport, just trying to get to each race each week.
Yeah, he and his brother Mark, and Mark does the driving, Tim is the crew chief on it. They run just as hard as anybody, and they're representing the Chevrolet camp or the General Motors camp in this lineup. You got Dodge, Ford, and Chevrolet still in the competition.
Of course, Fred Schaefer's been having a problem keeping the Barefoot Dodge straight. He did so in the last round. Let's see if he can do it right now in our semifinal round. Fred Schaefer going up against the Executioner.
Oh, yeah, Schaefer has found the chassis setup. Horsepower has never been a problem with that vehicle. The Hemi makes all the horsepower. The number 469 tells it all. If he can keep it straight, he can make it tough on you.
Seeing more runs in that 4-second category.
Here's another truck that potentially could do it. The Executioner, the Hall brother team, they have definitely turned the performance corner. Mark doing the driving, Tim turning the wrenches. They could be players, Gary.
Well, speaking of the player, it would still appear that Dan Runte is the guy to beat. He is unbeaten so far this season. He remains supreme in this competition. Here's Dan.
Well, another lap down. These guys are still trying to figure some way to beat you.
Yeah, the Ford Bigfoot's running good. We're changing a lot of things round by round, just adjusting for the track. This track's a lot different than it was the last race here. Got a good crew. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. We're picking up time every round. We're just going to go on with it.
In every form of competition, you hear about the drivers, the teams chasing the track. It is no different in monster truck competition. These guys are chasing this track this evening.
And the Ford takes the win out of the far lane. The Hulkster with another sub-5 second, 494. And it's like you said, they've not only chased the track, I think they've reeled it in. The Hall brothers, a good run, but not going to be a player. The replay comes up on the screen. The starting line shows the win here. Now the far lane settles down. See, all four wheels on the ground. He's on the throttle picking up that 490-plus run.
So Eric Meager in the Ford takes the victory. He has to be happy as he advances. Big Blue Bigfoot. But round one had even bigger surprises. Number 3 qualifier and third in the PENDA Points Championship, Fred Schaefer in Barefoot was upset by Mark Hall in the Executioner. Fred was disqualified. He was out of bounds. Oh, my, what a surprise. Army talked to Fred.
In the first round, the big question is, can he get past Paul? Paul, a salvage yard operator up in northern Indiana. And Mark Hall, a young gun on the circuit out of Champaign, Illinois. He and his brother have, I believe, turned that proverbial performance corner, Gary.
And Army talked to Mark about start line procedures for a monster truck driver.
Mark, tell me the routine you as a driver go through when you're on the starting line.
Well, by the time you see us at the starting line, we already have our helmet and fire suit and gloves on. My routine is I pull up to the line, I give my harnesses one more good tug. I look at all my gauges, make sure that I got good oil pressure, I got good temperature in the motor. Make sure my fuel system is all the way on so it doesn't vibrate off. Then we have a air button, or our shifter is operated with an air button. So I make sure my buttons are all the way up, and then I give one more good tug on the harness, pull up to the line, turn my first light on, and then pull forward, flip my shield down, I'm ready to go.
Well, he's ready to go now. You can see him tucked away in the cockpit. The Executioner with Mark Hall, the Monster Patrol with Paul Schaefer.
Mark Hall, all right, doing his thing. Man, you love to see these guys come together. A 529, not that great a number, so the driving had to take the win for him. Schaefer in the other lane runs strong. The haul just put him on the trailer. You know, it's interesting. Mark Hall has one client. He runs a welding shop. He has one client. You know who his client is? Paul Schaefer, the guy he's racing any other lane. Boy, I hope he gets orders on Monday morning.
Well, it's been a good day so far for Mark Hall. He takes the victory. There's the margin of victory right there. He has to be ecstatic.
One round at a time, but are you guys doing anything different today than you normally do?
No, we're just, I don't know. Things are just starting to happen for us, and it's finally coming around a little bit. I don't know that we're necessarily doing anything different. I think maybe we're just getting a few breaks.
The next pairing excited as we take a look at Mark Hall and the Executioner, and he will have the task of going up against Eric Meager in the Hulkster. And of course, the Hulkster was the #1 qualifier earlier today.
But you got to remember, Mark Hall has developed his confidence. We're seeing a new Executioner team. This race is not a giveaway, believe me. Mark Hall now believes in himself and his driving ability. Eric Meager in the far lane's good too, but we got to wait and see. We got a race. Chevrolet's going to take the win, Gary.
Well, a mechanical problem for the Ford for the Hulkster as Eric Meager pulls off. Your fast qualifier has been knocked aside. Mark Hall goes a 5:32. That will put him into the finals.
So, do you call it an upset or not? I think the guy just worked his way to the win.
Well, obviously there was a problem with the Hulkster, and right in no man's land, Eric Meager elected to pull off. So, obviously a problem, but that will put Mark Hall in the final.
You know, Gary, this is the first time Mark Hall has ever been in the final. Now, we got another angle coming up on the replay, and I really can't tell what went wrong. Whatever happened in no man's land, because Meager opted not to even attempt that second jump. He just drove off the track. Meanwhile, the lane closest to us, Hall running his own race to the final for the first time ever. Let's see how they fare.
Obviously some kind of a mechanical problem with the Hulkster as it is being pulled off the race course, but Mark Hall has to be very, very happy to make his first finals ever. Here's Army.
Mark, if I'm not mistaken, this is your first final ever.
This is it. It's the first one. This is all right. We've never been here before, so I don't know. We knew we was going to have to pull out all the stops there, and I don't know what happened to Hulkster there. It looked like he had a few problems, but what's that saying? Sometimes better be lucky than good, I guess. So.
With all the surprises we have had this afternoon, Mark Hall gets set for his first final. In the Executioner, he will take on Bigfoot. And talk about a big task. Bigfoot unbeaten this season as Dan Runte prepares to stage the big blue Ford.
Dan Runte, like you said, he's a sharp driver. He's a good driver, but he listens to people that have been around before. The kid in the lane next to him we're looking at right now, Mark Hall, the same way. These young men are the future of this sport. They both worked hard to get here, one in a Ford, one in a Chevrolet. Bigfoot keeps that win streak going, Gary.
Mark ran him hard, a good run for Mark, but a 5:11 slower than he had been, but Dan Runte wins it. He remains unbeaten, and Mark Hall goes a 5:23 in the Executioner. As you take a look again at the replay.
Like he said, he doesn't race the guy in the lane next to him. He races the track. He races the clock, and he races to the finish line.
Bigfoot remains unbeaten, pads the points lead in the PENDA Points Championship. Let's go down.
Shock absorbers, the other trucks do, Tom.
Well, he would be eliminated in round one by Bigfoot. Also in round one, Pam Vodder's in the boogie van taking on Mark Hall in the Executioner. Now, Hall's going to take the win, but Pam Vodder's comes back as the fast loser.
Pam had the misfortune of drawing the Hall brothers Executioner after they just found a performance curve they've been looking for a couple of years. However, a 5:59 will bring her back, Tom, as a quick loser.
On the wheelie situation.
Yeah, where he's getting his wheelies is not through the horsepower, the chassis he's making, and the transmission. He runs a Lincoln transmission. He'll be going against the Hall brothers in the wedge-type Chevrolet engine. Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois, a heck of a great kid, a good driver. He and his brother Tim really finding a performance curve, so it's anybody's race right now. There's your wheelie.
Wow. Boy, that landing looked tough, too.
Yeah, okay. Right lane, a 5:07, a good first round time, but The transmission is tightening up on him and really powering it up in mid-range.
Let's take a look and see if we can determine why those wheels go up. See, you can see right here, the wheels are both up. And here they come down again, and then he's going to put them up again. Now watch the landing. This looks like a really tough landing. Let's see if we can find out why with Army talking to him.
531, Tom.
Well, his wife Pam Vauders would meet up with the same round one opponent she had in the first race at Bloomsburg. Mark Hall, the Executioner. Hall, you're going to see here, takes out the boogie van, but Pam comes back as the fast loser with a time of 5.40, and there's the Executioner with a time of 5.11. Him go faster.
You know, it's an interesting story here. Freilich and the Rampage closest to us is in a great truck, plenty of horsepower and everything. They just can't seem to get the cars to fall away. Mark Hall, man, this kid has clawed literally from the bottom of the pile to be a major contender. He and his brother have got this GMC truck running great. So it's going to be a toss-up on this run. You do have corporate involvement with the Dodge. Privateers for the GMC camp on the far side. Oh, another upset, Tom. Did you see that? The GMC. Something again went wrong in no man's land for the Dodge camp, and the GMC product just motored it out the other end.
Boy, it sure is nice to see that, as you said, the Privateers come through and qualify. Rampage had a problem. Maybe we can get a look at it here.
Something happened in no man's land. Now watch the front end. See, he's on two wheels all the way.
Already
Still
up.
on two wheels. Now the front end touches, and that kicked him a little bit out of shape. He has to back on the throttle. Meanwhile, Hall keeps motoring on the other end.
Well, that replay really shows the attitude of Mark Hall's truck. It looks great, and Army's with him in the pits.
Mark, I tell you what, you are doing one fine job of driving this truck.
Well, thanks a lot, Army. That means a lot. You know, Tim's back here. I don't know what he's doing back there, but he's doing something right. You know, it's probably one of the smallest motors here, and so we don't have a whole lot of motor to work with, but whatever he's doing, he needs to keep doing it because we're rolling right along.
They are rolling right along, and it's great to see that because no two guys have worked harder for it than those guys.
Well, like you said,
Eric Meager and the Hulkster pull up to the line for our next run.
I don't see what could be scary about taking something that weighs 10,000 pounds and flying it through the air like an airplane and landing like a bomber. Yeah, just another day's job. Ford and Chevrolet battle on the line. The Hulkster, he'll represent the Ford camp. That'll be Eric Meager doing the driving. The Hulk Hogan sponsored vehicle, and the kids really seem to like it. We were talking earlier about the different designs. This is another one of the creation that comes out of the Wentzville, Missouri GTS fiberglass shop of George Link. He'll be going up against a more traditional looking GMC, Hall Brother GMC truck in the lane closest to us.
Boy, look at that. Eric just, it wasn't necessarily a fast run, but it sure looked like a Sunday cruise at a 5.65.
They make it look so smooth. The reaction of the truck, again, this truck does the same thing Bigfoot does. Watch it. When all four wheels touch down, it doesn't dodge left or dodge right. Watch what it does. It just goes straight, and you can't ask for anything better. Now the question is, who's going to get lane choice in this next round? Because both trucks cannot run out of the same lane. I know that because I read the rule book.
Well,
Another round one competition, Paul Schaefer and Monster Patrol taking on Mark Hall in the Executioner. They made it to the finals in Springfield, but Paul Schaefer takes out Hall on this run. Allen came back in round one. He would be paired up against Mark Hall in the Executioner. Now Hall's time was good enough to come back as the fast loser, but the winner in that round was Alan Pizzo. The Executioner staging against the Overkill truck of Kirk Dabney.
Gary, it's going to be a good run because we got two privateers going here. Dabney out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. For all you lowriders out there, during the weekend, he built these lowrider trucks. Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois. He and his brother Tim have been on the circuit for a couple of years. Both good drivers, but both doing it off of their own hip right now.
Some problems in the far lane there, Army.
Well, the Hall brothers not having to run it all they wanted. Dabney takes the win with a 5:43. That's not that great a number for a win.
Carrick's now for the semi, showing we have 3 Fords and a Dodge. The lone Dodge, the Rampage. Dan Patrick, who no doubt inspired the Monster Patrol situation, goes down to Mark Hall in the Executioner. But Patrick would make it back as the fast loser after this pairing. There's the 510 for Mark Hall. And Fred Schaefer, who went alongside Mark Hall in the Executioner. There's a look at Fred from Pontoon Beach, Illinois, longtime drag racer before he turned to monster truck competition. There's Mark Hall out of Champaign, Illinois.
Hall definitely one of the young up-and-comers in the sport, working his way round by round.
Mark Hall runs him tough, but it's Fred Schaefer by ever so small a margin. Fred Schaefer in the Dodge Barefoot Hemi takes the victory at a 5.07.
Margin of victory is always one.
Well, you take a look at the Dodge coming right at you. He got the whole shot, but I tell you, Mark Hall ran him tough.
Oh, he did. Schaefer knew it. I guarantee you, he knew Hall was sitting off his hip on the right side. But like I say, the margin of victory is always one. 1 inch, 1 foot, 1/1000th.
Remember now, these big old tires only run about 4.5 pounds of air in it, so the tire actually rolled over on its side, so that's where some of the dirt came from. Tell you what, no dirt here. This is going to be a war. The big, bad Dodge. Fred Schaefer needs a win. He's got to turn his luck around. The Pontoon Beach, Illinois native has been hunting it all year long. He goes up against none other than Champaign, Illinois' own Mark Hall, and this kid can beat you to death in a slapping contest, so this is going to be a toss-up.
Factory against Privateer. In fact, we will win that one, no problem, for Fred Schaefer in Barefoot.
Yeah, he won a 4.89. That's a good number considering the track conditions.
Unique situation coming up next with a husband and... Other highlights now from round one, the Black Stallion, the Executioner. This is Mike Vauders against Mark Hall, and Mark Hall would take the victory. His time of 5:19. Another member of the Dodge at the end of the Interstate Fair.
I made a living for years asking dumb questions. I don't see why everybody's so excited here. Executioner comes out, another Privateer team out of Champaign, Illinois. Mark Hall, one of the most underrated drivers in the sport. He'll be going up against Todd Froelich in the Chrysler affiliated vehicle. Now the Dodge boys and the Chrysler guys have done something unique this weekend. We did a piece on the tires. What they did, they put the big heavy tires on the front. Weight purposes is why they did that, Gary, to try to hold that vehicle from doing such a big wheelie. It seemed to work.
Yeah, that time it did, as Todd will advance. So the Rampage will go on to round three with a 4.93. All season long, they've been working to get the front end down on those Dodge pickups, and it looks like Fred Schaefer and company are getting the job done.
You know, they've been tweaking and turning and bending and moving and everything. They are going to just sit back and die if they find out all they had to do is take the back tires and put them on the front and the front tires and put them on the back in order to get into the winner's circle.
Yeah, but they have to be looking forward to next season because they're getting those Dodge trucks dialed in as we conclude this year in the PENDA Points Championship.
You know, moving that weight
Qualifier
around.
here this afternoon. Mark Hall, the Executioner, is the 5th fast qualifier.
You know, Pam, and she's going to be going up against Mark Hall. You know, two Privateers. Both of them have really earned their way in this sport. They're on the Hall brothers in the far lane have seemed to find the right combination. Pam, to be very honest with you, towards the end of the year seems to have lost his combination.
Oh, and somewhat of an upset there, Army, from round one. Mark Hall, a 5.08. So Mark has the momentum going his way, not so for Stinger with Eric Meager, who will finish second in the PENDA Points Championship this season. He'll take on Mark Hall in the Executioner. And there's a look at Mark Hall.
You know, a moment ago in the interview, they were talking about the sponsors and everything. You look at the decal on the side of these vehicles, and all these people help in some way or form for these guys to race. So if you see the decal on television and stuff, tell the manufacturer, support the product. You know, that's what makes it work. That's why they support these guys, is for the exposure. So you see a decal, spend some money with that person. It helps everybody.
This is factory backed against Privateer.
Yeah, but when the light goes green, the finish line doesn't know that.
This time it's going to be a close one, but Eric Meager takes it. It was close through no man's land, of 4.90 for Eric Meager.
Hall was right there with him, man. He made a move with that Chevrolet. But what you're going to see in a replay is watch Hall closest to us, how he bounces right here. That's what cost him. The Ford had all four touching, and he was hooking to the other end.
Oh, that's where the suspension and the chassis will have to work in tandem with horsepower. You need to settle that chassis down and make sure all four wheels are digging into that second group of cars.
Exactly right, Gary.
So Eric Meager will move on to this